morning to all our viewers. Today is November 20th, 2017, and our segment begins with breaking news from last night's American Music Awards, which took place in Los Angeles, where K-pop group BTS had a thrilling performance of their hit song DNA and was the first Korean boy band to debut in a US TV network. According to our sources, their performance elicited enthusiastic responses from fans at the venue and online, while also receiving favorable media reviews, such as one from the LA Times, which described their performance as one exceptionally strong among mostly disappointing ones. Now, I know that many of our viewers are interested in learning more about this new media-driven global sensation called K-pop, as it has actively engaged and united youth worldwide despite racial, cultural, and linguistic barriers. So let's turn to our specialists, Hannah and Soha, who are ready to give us more details on this topic. Take it away.
Thanks, Carla. That performance was so good. On to understanding transnational fans. As K-pop has recently become mainstream in the global north, there hasn't been a lot of data on the experiences of transnational fans until recently. Older studies on transnational fans found that the geographic, cultural, and temporal barriers between the fans and their idols can have an effect on the fans' pleasure and identities. However, over the years since these studies, fans and pop stars' engagement with each other has increased, while geographic, cultural, and temporal gaps have been reduced due to the new age of increased access to technology, particularly through social media. This ultimately has made the experience for transnational fans much easier. Now, back to Carla with more on the study in Vancouver.
I understand there have been many recent studies trying to understand this new phenomenon, the Korean wave, the most current one being a micro-level examination of how K-pop fans think and feel about their fan identity here in Canada. If I'm not mistaken, it is one in Vancouver, as it has one of the major K-pop fan-populated cities.
You're absolutely right, Carla. This study gives us all kinds of information about what it's like to be a K-pop fan in Vancouver. To become a fan of K-pop outside of Korea involves overcoming the barriers between the Western fans and the K-pop group. Such barriers include language, culture, and geographic locations. To tackle the language hurdle, there are fan translations which can help fans connect to the music, contribute to fan culture, and create a community. Even if translations are not available, the fans can enjoy the rhythm and feeling of the music and create their own interpretations of the lyrics. Furthermore, social media provides great exposure to K-pop, grabbing the attention of the fans and providing them the knowledge to understand Korean culture. The way social media is constructed allows fans to not only consume K-pop content, but also consume different forms of cultural content. For example, media algorithms allow anime fans to come across K-pop while watching YouTube. Previous experience with non-English forms of media allows K-pop consumption to be easier, as you are already adapted to enjoying content in a different language. This can include being able to read subtitles from anime. K-pop also has a hybrid feature where it has similarities and differences to Western music. Similarities include recruiting international producers and composers, whereas differences include K-pop having higher quality music videos, performances, and fast-changing concepts. Moreover, the investment of K-pop by Canadian fans may also be due to social and cultural context regarding race, class, and gender. Now let's give it back to Hannah.
Now let's talk about the stereotypes K-pop fans in the West face. We talked to a few fans earlier and asked them to share some of their experiences. Fans who are in their 20s were told K-pop is immature and that they're too old to be a fan. This is due to the stereotype associated with K-pop fans being young teenage girls. Many of the white K-pop fans we interviewed in Vancouver share that their families consider their hobbies a waste of time as they could not understand the idols and the message conveyed in their music. These fans continue to express concern about their interest potentially being labeled as a fetish of East Asians by not only white non-fans, but also by other East Asians. Comments they get include, "You only like Asian guys," as well as being labeled as a Korea boo, a term that describes an overly obsessive fan of Korean culture, often associated with those who fetishize it. Due to these stereotypes, white or non-Asian fans often hide their interest in fear of misjudgment from other Koreans, simply due to the stereotypes that continue to be associated with a white or non-Asian K-pop fan. We'll bring it back to you, Soha.
Thank you, Hannah. Though these stereotypes do exist, K-pop fans are challenging these stereotypes using their own subject positions. For Asian Canadian fans, K-pop allows these fans to explore diasporic connections and review their racial and ethnic positions, especially in Canada, where the country has white dominance and Asian subordination in mainstream media. On the other hand, white K-pop fans take up K-pop through the multicultural lens as an alternative cultural resource that is different from the white-dominated Western mainstream culture. It is noted that some white fans don't mention racial stereotyping of K-pop, creating a sense of colorblindness in society, but this information is not yet conclusive. However, most fans challenge racialization regarding K-pop, including white fans questioning white Koreaboos. Thus, K-pop fans are able to negotiate the sense of otherness caused by stereotyping and marginalization. Back to you, Carla.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure having you both on our segment today. As our specialist explained, K-pop enables fans to explore their identities, and for many, their East Asian roots, by creating a sense of belonging. Fans also experience personal and collective growth, and some even describe that for them, K-pop is a coping mechanism. Another big claim is that the fandom has cultivated a subculture of growing up together, along with their favorite idols, as they seem more real or closer than most Western stars. Through micro-participation, many feel a strong connection as they're able to put a smile on the faces of their idols by posting comments, creating memes, and creating edits of their favorite moments. And of course, fans have also been able to grow up along with each other by participating in fan networks both online and offline. Now, if you're thinking, wow, maybe I should become a K-pop fan myself, wait until you hear some very intriguing arguments from our very talented journalists and K-pop enthusiasts, Karen, Kamisha, and Prachi. Take it away.
Thanks, Carla, for inviting us. And when it comes to Korean pop music, a lot of you at home must be wondering, why do so many people like it? What's so good about it that makes Western audiences drawn to the music? Looking at the study conducted by Yoon Kyung, one K-pop fan stated that it's like a mix of Western and Asian elements, so it feels very familiar to me. The study further describes the importance in the K-pop industry of hybridizing Western pop music components for K-pop's global circulation. According to an article on manufacturing creativity by Park Il-sung, this idea to globally outsource musical components derives from this internal process of modifying the original creative work to make it more viral to the actual listeners. In fact, the study also looks into the case of SM Entertainment, who demonstrates the process by acquiring samples of music from Europe and the States, then locally modifying the components into a composition unique to the company. It is this first step to globalizing the signature K-pop sound that captures the attention of Western audiences. Here's Karen with more on this process.
Thanks, Namisha. The second part of this highly developed process is a localization and training system. In the study, we found that the public's perception of K-pop is that of higher quality music videos and more sophisticated performers compared to Western pop music. This phenomenon can be explained by the article Sociocultural Dynamics of K-pop. It describes how K-pop trainees spend hours a day training in dancing, singing, and foreign languages under the strict supervision of authoritarian staff. This is the norm in this industry as they are aware of the Red Queen's race, otherwise known as hyper-competition in society. These trainees undergo monthly evaluations where they are ranked based on their dancing and singing skills. Thus, there is high pressure to constantly practice. Western idols are not as rigorously trained in those aspects due to the difference in societal norms. To conclude the process, K-pop is put onto the global market. Some of the K-pop fans mentioned that they didn't realize or particularly care about the lack of Asian presence in mainstream media until they discovered K-pop, usually through friends or social media. In the article, Mass Media Technology, European and American music labels acted as the gatekeepers of the industry, as they essentially decided which style of music was allowed to be broadcasted, which tended to be solely Western music. As YouTube and other social media came into play, it gave K-pop producers the opportunity to show to the rest of the world what they had to offer at a low cost. By taking away these barriers, it allows for true multiculturalism and for the diasporic Asian youth to engage with their roots. Now, back to Namisha.
Thanks, Karen. We can definitely see the extent to which K-pop has grown today in the global context through SNS when we look at the transcultural fan community of BTS. Journalists Courtney McLaren and Jindal Young have discovered that the ARMY, being a fan, enables them to invest in new forms of meaning, pleasure, and identity in order to cope with new forms of pain, pessimism, frustration, alienation, terror, and boredom. The results of a survey they conducted in an article about BTS and effective identities revealed that the themes and social critiques that BTS's lyrics and albums explored, such as various messages about youth, dreams, struggle, and self-love, were easy to relate to and identify with. As BTS's music contains hopeful messages that stem from the members' lived experiences, which also reinforces their authentic image, this shared struggle not only brings fans closer with their idols, but it also connects the fans with one another. For more on the fan culture, here's Prachi.
Thanks, Amisha. So far, we have walked through the process of how Western fans connect with K-pop, how they deal with stereotypes as K-pop fans, and the relationship they have with their band. But there is another big factor that makes fans loyal to their groups, and that is the overarching message that many of these groups have to offer. Over the years, groups like BTS, Luna, Stray Kids, and Monsta X have been using their global stage to do good in the world. Their fans are treated like intelligent individuals rather than the crazed fans that are normally depicted in the media, and are encouraged to express themselves. By treating a fan base that consists primarily of teenagers and young adults that have been constantly overlooked by the adults around them or not taken seriously as individuals that have the ability to do good in the world, makes them feel heard, seen, and inspired to take action. A lot of these fans also come from many places around the world where they are minorities or marginalized, and they find solace in a community within a global fandom where they can connect with others who are going through similar experiences. This has created a massive international network that is often mobilized through social media platforms like Twitter, where ideas can be spread widely and quickly to efficiently achieve the target. For example, the BTS fandom army got together and donated $1 million to the Black Lives Matter movement to match the donation that BTS made themselves. Another interesting event is when K-pop fans gathered to sign up for Trump's rallies, but ultimately the actual attendance turned out to be a mere 6,000 people, making Trump's boasts about his crowd sizes sound like a joke. However, the fans' actions do not always reflect those of the bands. There are many times where fans end up taking action on their own without any encouragement from the idols and become an entity that holds no less power than the idol themselves. K-pop fans have taken it one step further and shown that they can be intelligent, tactical, and resourceful. So next time, think twice before you stereotype a K-pop fan base. Now over to field reporter Shreya.
Hi everyone. In order to dig a little deeper into today's topic, it's essential that we go through some discussion questions. My first question relates to the identity of people of color, or POC fans, and the way they interpret being K-pop fans abroad. The study singled out East Asian and Caucasian fans. However, it excluded fans of different ethnicities. It's important to touch upon the wider range of POC fans, not just those from East Asian countries, as East Asian countries that are adjacent to Korea, like China or Japan, are likely to share deeper cultural ties because of the similarities in their own cultures. To answer this question from my perspective, as a South Asian fan living in Canada, although I can't relate to East Asian or Korean culture directly, I love seeing the parallels between Bollywood music and K-pop music, seeing as they're both so performative and require performers to not only just sing, but to also dance, act, and perform, which brings me a sense of familiarity. This just goes to show how your intersectionality affects your perception of K-pop and your identity as a fan. For my next question, I'd like to discuss the extent to which non-Korean fans can adapt and take on Korean culture as their own. A lot of fans, through listening to K-pop culture, K-pop music get immersed into the wider Korean culture, whether that be the language, the food, or the shows. However, is there a point where cultural appreciation can turn into cultural appropriation? An example that illustrates this well is during the Momoland scandal when international BTS fans thought Momoland was being rude to BTS for not greeting them properly, and in this case, many Korean fans stepped forward and said that international fans were making a misjudgment after not understanding Korean etiquette and social norms well. This raises the concern of how much ownership fans can take over Korean culture within a respectable capacity.
So there you have it, folks. This has been our segment on K-pop and its transnational fandom in the making. Make sure to tune in next week to hear some of our viewers' answers to this week's questions. If you wish to participate, follow us on eClass at Korean 3610. Have a wonderful day.